Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us this day as we continue questions that relate to biblical things. Today we're discussing a question that perhaps you heard people talk about and maybe you wondered yourself. And that question is, what is the mark of the beast? I'm sure that you've heard that expression and perhaps have wondered what it was. The word the mark of the beast is an expression that's found 8 times in the book of Revelation. It is that comes as an illustration of the very character and the nature of the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation was given to John of things that must shortly come to pass. It was not those things that dealt with 2,000 years from there. It was the things that were immediately before him. It dealt with the needs of the people that were Christians of that day. And as John uses this expression, the mark of the beast, it only shows the very character and the nature, for he wrote in signs and symbols. As we look at this, we find that the beast, of which that we look at the mark of the beast, is introduced to us in the latter half of the book. Revelation divides into 2 parts. The first 11 chapters, the second 11 chapters. And in the second division, in the 11th chapter, or in the 12th chapter, it opens with the presentation of a woman that is pregnant. She is about to bear a son, a man-child, who's going to rule the world. And standing before her to take and destroy that man-child so soon as it's born is a great red dragon. This dragon has 7 heads, 10 horns. It is a furious beast. And as we look at this beast, this dragon that is pictured in Revelation 12, the writer says that it has a tail with which he sweeps away 1/3 of the stars of heaven and casts them down to earth. Now we recognize that that language is symbolic, and it describes and goes along and certainly agrees with other things that are written in this book. As the child is born, we find that he's caught up to heaven, and the dragon is disappointed in his effort to destroy the child. And so he wars against the woman, and she flees away into the wilderness where a place is made for her by God. And thwarted in that, he goes away to make war with the rest of the seed of the woman. And as we look at this great red dragon is that depicts Satan and his eternal struggle against what is right and good, and against his battle against Jesus Christ and against those who seek to follow Jesus. And so as he seeks help in his everlasting wickedness, he finds help in a beast that emerges from the waters of the Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea. And this beast that comes out of the waters looks surprisingly like the dragon himself. It too has 7 heads and 10 horns. And as we look at this beast that comes out of it, we find that there is the question of another beast that arises. This one does not come out of the water of the Mediterranean Sea. It is that comes out of the earth. Now, the beast that comes out of the sea is that is one. It is one that looks like a leopard, but it's got the feet of a bear. It's got the voice of a lion. And as we look at these things, we find that it is something that, like a leopard, like a lion, like a bear, this gives us some insight as to understanding a bit of what that the Holy Writer is attempting to say. For these are figures that come from the book of Daniel. in which Daniel, interpreting a dream for Nebuchadnezzar, saw 4 world empires that were to come. And those 4 world empires that were to come would be the Babylonian, the Medes and the Persians, the Grecians, and finally the Roman. And as we look also in other things that Daniel revealed about these kingdoms, he likened the Babylonian kingdom as unto that was a lion. He likened the Medo-Persian kingdom as that was like unto a bear. And he likened the Grecian kingdom that was like unto a leopard. These had the characteristics of it. Then there was this 4th kingdom, and it was different from all the others. And that 4th kingdom was the Roman kingdom. And that's the kingdom that is depicted as this beast that comes out of the midst of the sea, that has 7 heads and 10 horns. As John looks, we find that, as we've said, another beast comes, but it's not from the waters of the Mediterranean. It's out of the midst of the earth, and it is that is something that also is deceptive in its character. For it is innocent looking. It looks like a lamb, and yet, though it has the voice of a lamb, it is one that acts like a dragon, or like, as it looks like a lamb, it is that has the voice of a dragon, fierce. And this beast that comes out of the earth is given powers, and powers that is given to this beast that comes out of the midst of the earth is to make another creation that looks like the dragon, or rather the beast that came out of the sea, 7 heads and 10 horns. That beast that came out of the earth made an image like unto him, and then he gave life to it. And then he compelled everyone, strong, weak, rich, poor, to worship that beast. And then the record says that to those that worship the beast, there was given an impression, a mark on their hand and a mark on their forehead. And there was advantage given to these. And if they had the mark of the beast, they could buy, they could sell, they could easily do commerce. But if one did not have that mark of the beast, then it was not possible for him to successfully and easily take care of himself. And that was certainly a great disadvantage as far as the Christians was concerned. When we look at this, what John is telling us is that the last of these 4 kingdoms, which was the beast that came out of the midst of the sea, was many times very anti-God, and was very, very opposed to the Christians as they were under the realm of the Caesars. Some of those Caesars were ones that got along with Christians fairly well, but some of them were very cruel, and it was during the time of one of those that was extremely cruel that the book of Revelation was written. Christians were being imprisoned. They were being beaten, and some of them being put to death. It was a hard time for God's people. And yet, we find that God had made provisions for them. And so the ones that had the mark of the beast, who were they? Well, it was on their hand. That means they did what the beast wished them to do. It was in their head. It was in their heart. Likewise, to do what the beast wanted them to do. So the mark of the beast was upon those individuals that acted in harmony and in concert with what the beast that came out of the sea wished them to do. Now, a lesson. As we look at this, we find that there was a great advantage to those that had the mark of the beast then. We don't have people today that are members of the Roman Empire, but we have people today that still have the so-called, to speaking, the mark of the beast, because the beast that came out of the sea was only in cahoots with the great red dragon, the devil. And while the beast that came out of the midst of the sea is gone today, the dragon is still here. He's still a threat. He's chained, but he's still a threat. And there are still individuals that are willing to commit soul and body, their very being, to doing the work of the great red dragon. It was advantage to them, and it was a great disadvantage to those that were Christians. But that advantage to those that have had the mark of the beast was just temporary, because when we look, we find that the record teaches that the end of the dragon, the devil, the end of the beast that came out of the sea, oppressive Roman Empire, and others that are oppressive, and those that are wicked, and those that have the mark of the beast, do the will and the desires of the devil, all of them will be cast ultimately into the lake of fire. But on the other hand, God's people were oppressed, killed, imprisoned, hurt, deprived of their measures of profit and the assets that they had. It was a difficult time for Christians. But while that is true, ultimately they overcame. Revelation, the 17th chapter, describes these, for it speaks of those that were the enemies of Christ, the dragon, the beast, the false prophet. The record says, these shall make war against the Lamb, Jesus, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he's King of kings, and he is Lord of lords. And here is the comforting note. And they also shall overcome that are with him, called and chosen and faithful. My friend, are you with the Lamb? You may suffer afflictions and adversities in this life, but I assure you it will be well worth those sacrifices and hurts and heartaches that you spend to be able to stand with the Lamb. In the ultimate day, he will give rest to you and to all those that have loved his appearing. Thank you for listening. May God bless you and yours.